You don't realize when it happens. There is no announcement. There is no celebration. There is no pause. Nothing changes in the environment. Nothing indicates that something has ended or begun. Just one email. Short, direct, cold. Promoted to associate. Without context, without explanation, without explicit acknowledgement. And for a second, you think you've won. It finally arrived. That all of that had a clear endpoint. Years of long nights, spreadsheets that never closed in the first version. Models that needed to be perfect before sunrise. Mistakes corrected in silence. Before anyone noticed. All of this seems to be converging at this moment. But the feeling doesn't last long. Because almost immediately, something changes inside you. Now you are no longer the executor. You are no longer hiding behind delivery. You decide, you lead, you answer. You enter the room where the decisions are actually made. But not as someone who observes, as someone who makes an impact. And that's when you understand, the system hasn't changed. He didn't get any lighter. It's no clearer now. It couldn't be fairer now. Only the place where he's pressing you has changed. Previously, the error was corrected before uploading. Now, it starts with you. And this time, there is no one above to absorb the flaw before it appears. There is no final review. There is no such thing as invisible protection. Now, the mistake isn't your fault. It is born within you. Level 1. The promotion, you're still in the same building, same table, same screens, even a heavy silence at 2:17 in the morning. But everything changed, not in appearance, in responsibility. Now, when an analyst gets stuck, they no longer try to solve it alone. He is waiting. And look at you. When something doesn't close, it's no longer just a technical problem. That's your problem. You don't run anymore. You validate, you sign, you assume. And there's a moment, subtle, almost imperceptible, when you realize this for the first time. No one is checking after you. For the first time, you see the system from above. Not as an operator, but as part of the machinery that decides what continues and what stops. You learn quickly. It's not about working more. It's about making fewer mistakes in decisions that can't be undone. Because now, speed without precision becomes risk. Precision without decisiveness leads to delay. You win. Silent respect. No one speaks, but everyone adjusts their behavior to those around them. A bonus that finally feels real. Not symbolic, but structural. The feeling of having truly entered the game, where the consequences are no longer just theoretical. You lose the protection of anonymity. Your name is now linked to the outcome. The margin for error is small, because small errors now escalate. The freedom to not know, hesitation is no longer acceptable. The risk is invisible. Because now, the error doesn't appear in the spreadsheet. It appears in the impact that spreads afterward. In decisions that seem right until they aren't anymore. The numbers add up, but they don't reflect reality. And nobody points it out immediately. The system is watching. To move up, you need to prove one thing. Someone who can make decisions. Without hesitation, without requesting validation, without expecting certainty, even when the data is incomplete, even when the situation is unclear, even when you know you could be wrong. Because at this level, not deciding is the only mistake the system doesn't tolerate. Level 2, the first team. They sit around him, younger ones, faster, more insecure, and for the first time, you notice the difference. Before, you were the most pressured person in the room. Now, you are the point of pressure. They don't ask everything, but they hesitate before acting. They crave validation, even when they don't say it out loud. And now, you are the filter. You notice something immediately. The workload hasn't decreased. It didn't get any easier. It multiplied into other people. Every potential error now exists in parallel. Every detail that's overlooked can grow without you even noticing. You review everything, lines that appear correct, but hide inconsistencies, slides that seem clear, but don't support difficult questions, models that work until someone looks deeper. You correct details that nobody notices, adjust presentations that will define millions. It rewrites narratives to make them seem inevitable, and it anticipates questions that haven't even been asked yet, but that you know are coming. You learn. Leading is not about teaching, It's not about explaining. It's not about training. It's about absorbing the mistake before it reaches the top. It's best to see it first, correct it first, take responsibility first, because when you get up there, it's already too late. You win. Control over the flow. Everything passes through you, directly or indirectly. Influence over internal decisions. You shape what goes up and how it goes up. Speed. You learn to make decisions faster than you'd like. You lose. Time. You never have enough of it. Mental energy. You're always switched on, even away from the table. The ability to switch off? Because there's always something that can break without warning. The risk now is human. It's no longer in the model. It's in the people. A mistake is no longer solely yours. But the responsibility still remains. And the system doesn't differentiate between origins. He only considers consequences. You start to notice something uncomfortable. You don't control everything. But he's charged as if he were in control. To move up, you need to show something new. That can climb without losing precision. Someone who can trust, without relinquishing control. That can accelerate, without letting any noise through. Because there's no system. Uncontrolled growth is not success. It's a delayed failure waiting for the right moment to appear. Level 3. The first big client. He doesn't raise his voice. Don't pressure me. It doesn't demonstrate urgency. But his silence weighs more than any accusation. Every word is measured, every pause is intentional, and every decision that goes through him shifts numbers you've never seen together before. You enter the room, and he understands immediately. You're not there to impress. He's not there to show off his intelligence. It's there to ensure there's no mistake, under any circumstances. Because here, there's no room for adjustments later. You lead the conversation, control the pace, filter what can and cannot be said. It translates uncertainty into firm language, and it inspires confidence without letting any doubt escape. Even when it exists, you learn. The customer doesn't want the truth. He wants consistency. He doesn't want to hear about possibilities. You want to feel a sense of direction. He doesn't want to know what could go wrong. You want to trust that you've already eliminated that. And little by little, you begin to understand the real game. It's not about always being right. It's about never seeming uncertain. You win. Access, doors that didn't even exist for you before now. Open without announcement. Visibility, your name starts circulating in the right places. Selective trust, you become included. Not because of declared merit, but because of a perception of security. You lose. Spontaneity. Every word is now calculated. Room for doubt. Questioning in public becomes a risk. Reaction time, because everything needs to be ready before it happens. The risk now is reputational, and it's not immediate. It is built in silence. A poorly placed detail, a subtle hesitation, an answer that doesn't quite add up. Nothing breaks instantly, but something changes, and when it changes, it doesn't go back, because a mistake here doesn't cost money. Trust is a cost, and trust, there's no second version. You start to realize that you're no longer just managing numbers. It's managing perception, and perception is more volatile than any market. To move up, you need to prove something more difficult. That manages to keep the system stable, even when reality is not, which manages to sustain the narrative while the data is still being formed. That which manages to hold the structure together, even before knowing if it will hold up. Because at this level, it's not the one who understands the most who advances. It's the one who manages to keep everything standing, even when it shouldn't be standing yet. Level 4, the first big bonus. He arrives without warning. No meeting, no speech, without explanation. Just a number. Much bigger than you expected. Big enough to silence any doubts you may have had up to this point. And for a moment, it all makes sense. The nights that never ended. The constant pressure that never stopped. The decisions you made without certainty, but with enough conviction to follow through. You look at that and think, it was worth it. Not out loud, but enough to believe. But the system doesn't reward you. It is conditional. And you realize this too quickly to ignore it. A bonus is not payment, it's not recognition, it's not the closing of a cycle, it's a benchmark. A new, invisible standard that now defines what is acceptable and what is a fall. You learn. Value does not represent the past. He redefines the future. You win. Confirmation that you are at the right level. Dependence, because now there is something to hold on to. A new standard of living. Silent, progressive, difficult to reduce later. You lose. Reference, what once seemed like a lot, now seems minimal. Limits, because there's always room for more. The ability to say no, because refusal then has an invisible cost, and this cost doesn't become apparent immediately, but it accumulates. The risk now is psychological. It's no longer in the execution phase, not even in the technical decision. It's in the way you start thinking, because without realizing it, you start to align your choices with whatever maintains that level. You accept more meetings, more responsibility, more exposure, not because he wants to, but why does maintaining become more important than questioning? And the system doesn't need to push. You adjust yourself. To climb up, you need to do something dangerous. Accept more. Without seeming like you're taking on too much. Expand. Without showing a loss of control. To grow. Without showing signs of weakness. Because at this level, the system doesn't just measure what you deliver. He observes how much you can endure without breaking inside. And the more you achieve, but he understands that he can demand it. Level 5, the choice. It doesn't come as a warning. There is no meeting scheduled, there is no direct guidance. No one sits down with you to explain what to do. It appears diluted. Inside conversations, opportunities arise without context, in decisions that seem small, but aren't. And suddenly, you realize it's not a one-time decision. There are 3 paths: silent, parallels, incompatible. You can accept more projects, to increase your presence within the system, to be involved in all relevant streams, to be seen as indispensable, or focus on a few clients, build depth, create relationships that are difficult to replace, protect your reputation consistently, or taking on an extremely risky business venture. High reward, high visibility, high chance of failure, and for the first time, there is no right answer. The system doesn't tell you which one to choose. He doesn't give guidance. It doesn't fix it. Not valid. But he observes. Every move you make begins to reveal something. How do you think? How do you take risks? How do you prioritize? You learn. Not choosing is also a choice, and usually, the worst one. Because the system doesn't punish indecision immediately. He just starts to ignore it. You win. Power of direction. For the first time, you define your own vector within the system. Silent autonomy. No one interferes, but everyone reacts to what you decide. You lose any future excuses, because now it was your turn to choose. The protection of following orders. There's no such thing as "I was asked to." The risk now is structural. It's not about the immediate result. It's on the path you define. Because any path, it determines the type of mistake you will make. If you expand too much, you lose control. It delves too deeply. It loses scope. If you take too many risks, you might not come back, and the system doesn't need to intervene. He lets you go on your way until the consequences appear. To rise, you need to do what few others do. Choosing without a guarantee. No confirmation. Without external validation. Without knowing if it's the best way. And most importantly, to stand by the choice, even when the initial signs don't confirm that it was the right one. Because at this level, it's not the decision that defines you. It's the ability to hold on to it when everything still seems uncertain. Level 6. Total exposure. Now everyone knows who you are. His name is circulating. Their projects are discussed. Your decisions are analyzed. You are no longer hidden within the system. You became a point of reference within it. You learn. Visibility is not recognition. It's surveillance. You win. Real influence. Direct access to major decisions. Execution speed. You lose. Privacy. Margin for invisible error. Control of the narrative. The risk is now amplified because any small mistake, it becomes huge when everyone is watching. To move up, you need to do something critical, operating under constant pressure without altering its accuracy. Final climb. The top of the system. You arrive. No announcement, no applause, just a different kind of silence. Now you don't run it. Do not review. It does not have any. You decide. Big numbers, major directions, major impacts. And for the first time, it seems like you're in control. But then, you realize the decisions were already in motion before they reach you. You don't control the system, you interpret the moment when he allows a decision. The illusion breaks down, slowly. Because now you understand. The system doesn't make mistakes. He absorbs error, and it redistributes the consequence. Is left over. It's not a collapse, it's a sequence. A project that just won't close. A customer who backs out. A decision that seemed solid, but wasn't. Nothing explodes, but everything starts to fall apart. You try to fix it, adjust, recalculate, reposition, but it's already happening. You see signs that you previously ignored. Silence in meetings, change of tone, less access. You learn too late. The system doesn't remove you on error. Remove yourself when you lose confidence in your ability to predict error. Betrayal is not personal, it's structural. You didn't fail alone, but you are the point where the failure is concentrated, and that is enough. The room remains the same. The screens remain on. The numbers keep changing. The flow never stopped. Nothing slowed down when you left. Nothing was interrupted. Nothing needed you. More than for a moment. Someone else is taking your place. Not exactly like you used to do, but it's enough for the system to keep functioning. Someone takes responsibility for their decisions. Rework your processes. Interpret the same signs with a confidence you once had. And someone else enters the same cycle, believing they've reached the top. I feel the same way. With the same silent validation. With the same initial certainty that now, he is in control. But now you know. This was never about rising. It was never about reaching a specific level. It was never about reaching a position where everything stabilizes. It was about sustaining. For long enough. Enough time to appear consistent. Enough time to be reliable. Enough time to avoid breaking down before the next test. Because the system doesn't measure achievement, it measures resistance. It doesn't measure talent. No effort required, no intention whatsoever. It measures how long you can operate without visibly failing. And when the flaw ceases to be invisible, he doesn't react with emotion. It doesn't punish harshly. It does not create an event. It simply replaces it. No announcement, without explanation, without pause. Because it's not the end. The system does not reward those who arrive. He tests who stays. Sooner or later, everyone is replaced by someone else, which is still at the beginning of the cycle. Someone who still believes that control is real. Decision-making is power. That consistency is sufficient. Someone who still hasn't realized that the system was never designed to be dominated, just to continue.